Hey guys, I am Colton Luther, host of the Texas Growers Podcast, and I'm honored to be here to host this panel. We are going to get down to the bottom line and talk about the return on investment of under-canopy lighting. I don't know about you guys, but when I buy something, I like to get my money back out of it, and that's what I'm going to ask all these pros to discuss today on this panel. So I'm going to let these guys go down the row. We got a bunch of great people here, a bunch of great brands. Let them introduce themselves, and then we'll hit them with the hard-hitting questions.
Cool. My name is Chuck. I'm a owner with GrowPros Solutions. I'm the Chief Solutions Strategist. Been in the cannabis industry about 12 years, and I work really hard on our product development. Excited about that.
I'm Dr. Jason Matlock. I am a data scientist for Fluence's plant science team. I've worked in the industry for about 15, 16 years as a grower and as a consultant in the space, and now I work for Fluence, processing all of our data and managing our trials.
What's up, guys? My name is Alex Villegas, better known as Miami Mango on Instagram. I'm a state licensed general contractor in the state of Florida. I've been building high-end homes forever since I was like 20 years old. I've been also building clandestine high-end grows for over 35 years. I've been cultivating for 30 years, and I've been tinkering with canopy lighting since about 2014 with Cobb LEDs from Pacific Coast Lighting back in the day. And I am representative of ThinkGrow LED and TrolMaster today, which is one of the first lights that had spectrum tunability, 2-channel, 4-channel, and also have Inner-Canopy and Under-Canopy lights.
Right on. Welcome, guys. So the first hard-hitting question, this is a lot of what people want to know right at the beginning. Is under-canopy lighting one of the biggest untapped potentials for your yields in commercial grows right now? We know it's coming online. We know it's really popular. Is it really the hot solution to get the under-canopy to really put out some actual yields?
Like I said, I've been doing canopy lighting since 2014. And there's a lot of the stuff that I've been showing on Instagram over the years that I was mocked for and is now an SOP. For example, defoliating. I was the one that coined the terms 2142. I got laughed at when I started doing that and showing it to Instagram. I also got given LED lights for me back in the day, 2014, Cobb LEDs. And I tried them as top lighting. They didn't really quite work as expected, but I didn't want to throw the lights away, so I started putting on the sidewalls of my grow, lining my grow. And to my surprise, the shit rocked. You know, my lowers were huge. I got mocked for that too, and now it's an SOP. And I believe if you don't have some kind of under-canopy or inner-canopy lighting, you're not going to make it in this industry. The only thing that's gone down in price is cannabis, and everything else has gone up. If you don't have some kind of inner-canopy lighting, you're not going to make it.
I would echo that. I think that sub-canopy is part of any grow. You know, if someone says, where is this application the most useful? The answer is anywhere you're growing cannabis. The reality is that it is a relatively low-cost way to put in a lot of light, and it's putting it right where it matters. So you're increasing the value of your harvest. You're increasing the amount of harvest that you get, not only through added light, but through added light use efficiency. So absolutely, all the models are there, and the proof is there, right? I mean, we can see it in all sectors, right? The culture is showing you that it matters. The quality's coming out there. The science, we're all aligned. This is what you should be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're adding wattage, and it's going to increase your yield. And like you said, that's real important to staying competitive in the market. But some other, like, we'll have we're increasing the size of your lowers, and then,
Yep.
like you said about the de-leafing, you get to save huge money on your de-leafing labor. And so then, obviously, we're still de-leafing, but you're going to have less of that. And then we also get to sorting, right? Once you get to your final, you're saving money on trimming. And
Yep.
so those are like two returns on investment that aren't just about yield or quality.
The comment about trimming is also interesting because, yeah, when you have bud that is lower density, which is what you see coming off of the lowers, that particularly if you're machine trimming, when that hits those blades, it just gets shredded. So your waste fraction goes really, really high. If you can increase the density and create tighter buds that have less larf and less dreading, then you trim that a lot more even. So your waste fraction goes down while at the same time producing buds at a higher sorting grade. So you're not only making more money because you're promoting the quality, but you're actually literally trimming less off and putting it in the waste bin.
That is absolutely correct. ThinkGrow LED was one of the first lights that started doing spectrum tuning. Science LED was another company that had spectrum tuning. We spectrum tune now 4 channels, which is the deep red, far red, UV, and white. We started with just 2 spectrum channel, deep red and far red. Something that we're doing nowadays is we're spectrum tuning our lights on top and on bottom with ThinkGrow LEDs. We have 3 different kind of under-canopy lights. We have the regular under-canopy lights everybody has, 120 watts, and it's a single spectrum. I call those the Fiat, the Corollas, the dependable kind of lights that everybody can use is the budget light. Then we step it up to the Ferrari, which is a 4-channel spectrum tunable light, and it shines on 100. Let me show you first. This is by the way, diodes shine at 120 degrees. So this is what an under-canopy light looks like that is shining up 120 degrees. This is what a 4-channel under-canopy light from ThinkGrow LED shines. It shines at 150 degrees because it has 2 different plates that are angled like an A-frame or a reverse V, and it shines at 150 degrees. This is a 4-channel. We call this the Ferrari. The Bugatti, or the Formula One, is the ICL 300. It's ICL because it's inner canopy light. It's not under the canopy, it's in the canopy, shining on a 300-degree facet. So we're actually shining light on top of the leaves and on top of the buds. And also the top part of the light also shines up, so it's in the canopy, it's also shining up and illuminating the densest part of your canopy. A lot of people will say, well, how does a plant absorb light when you're shining underneath? Well, under canopy lights, they depend on refraction from light. They shine up, and then it reflects back on top of the leaf, and that's how they process photosynthesis. We're all 3rd grade, biology class. The receptors are on top of on the top of the leaf, and on the bottom is the stomata, where it breathes, the mouth. Another way that under-canopy lights work is they're so strong, they shine through the leaf. A leaf is pretty thin, and it hits the top receptors. So we decided to do an inner-canopy light that is in the canopy and is shining all the way around. Another thing that our lights do that I was touching on is spectrum tuning, 4-channel spectrum tuning, far red, deep red, UVs, and the whites. We are consistently harvesting all our rooms now at day 52. All 63-day strains, which are 9 weeks, we can shave 11 days off each harvest time. We increase the quality of the flower, the terpenes of the flower, and the THC levels. The colors are more vibrant. Even on green weed, it looks more vibrant. So what does that do? We just shaved 11 days per harvest, 5 harvests a year. What did that do? It just allowed us to do another harvest in the same room in that year. That's a 20% yield just by using spectrum tuning. Now, if you have inner canopy or under canopy lights, that's an extra 15 to 30% yield every harvest per room. So inner canopy lighting is going to be the wave of the future. I believe, and I forgot to mention that in another panel, I believe that Title 24, either on 2026, worst comes to worst, 2027, is going to make it mandatory for all new builds, or if you remodel a grow a certain percentage or more, they're going to require you to put inner canopy light because they're so efficient.
Right on. You actually answered one of the questions, which is, are growers or people that are trying under canopy lights, are they seeing those 20 to 30% increases of yield like people that the rumors say you can get? People are actually, you just explained that you're doing it. Are people actually seeing that in their grows?
Well, I mean, you're adding, Chuck mentioned this, right? You're adding wattage. You're adding photons. So, we know that in general, with plants, you add more light, you get more yield, and with cannabis, its appetite is voracious. So it absolutely makes sense. If you're going from 1,000 ppft of top light and you're adding 200 micromoles into the canopy, that's a 20% increase in light. You should see a 20% increase in yield. So I think it's important to break apart the light response from the distribution response, right? And actually be able to explain why that's working. So yeah, you see that, but you actually can also see additional yields is instead of saturating the top even further, you're feeding hungry tissue. And so you see sometimes light use efficiency, right? The amount of yield that you get for the amount of light that you're using increasing above and beyond what you would get with just top light alone, because you're creating a more evenly distributed environment. And so in that sense, yes, you're seeing those yield increases, but it's not just because you're distributing it, it's also because you're physically adding more light.
Yeah, and in the spirit of ROI too, like, is it really the secret to turning your under-canopy, your lowers into top shelf usable bud that you can profit more off of?
Sure. I mean, that's where the value's at.
Right, yeah. Like we measure your grams per square foot.
But like, have you seen like quality, like terpenes, potency from that lower stuff be as badass as the top stuff?
I have.
Yeah. You can see the before your lights go from the top. Now we're getting multiple spectral wavelengths into all of it. You'll even out the maturity, right? And so you'll have, because typically when we harvest cannabis plant, we harvest the whole plant.
Totally.
Right, and so the light was just from above, but now we have it in the middle, so now the whole plant is much more even. But
we classify.
And then but I'm curious with you guys, like with the Inner-Canopy, right? You have we're adding two constraints. Like labor is one of the more expensive things in commercial, right?
The most expensive.
Right.
Labor is your most expensive bill that you have.
How does it affect the harvest? That's what I'm curious. Like, what solutions have you guys found for how to affect the harvest?
I've been a defoliator since as far as I've been growing, because we grew up in Miami. We used to load houses, so we'd always been defoliating. I never lollipopped a plant in my life because there was always value for even the lowers, because I had an extraction that I got rated for back in 2017. So even the lowers had value to me. That being said, adding lower canopy lights makes your micros now dense. And anybody in California, which is the harshest market, we used to get $350 for our micros before the Inner-Canopy or lower canopy. Now we're getting $550 for our micros. You know, how micros is like the little tiny popcorn nugs that were below, because now they're dense. They're actually worth something. They have weight. They add value. We rate our harvest with A's, smalls, and micros, because the A's and B's are pretty much the same size when you can spectrum tune from top all the way through the bottom canopy.
How do we get the plant out, though? When you have 3 lights in the way, do we have to remove the lights?
No, our lights are fully spectrum tunable.
No. I'm talking about during harvest when you're cutting the plant.
Okay.
Right, and then now we have 3 sets of lights. You have the one on the bottom, and you have your Inner-Canopy in the middle. Like, does it? I feel like it's going to increase the labor, or what? I'm just wondering what.
Well, so Fluence also has Inner-Canopy lighting. Right? We developed them, I don't know, 8 years ago or so for tomatoes initially, right? So we're doing high wire crops, and we moved that into the cannabis space. And a lot of the times the deployments that we're recommending with Inner-Canopy are between rows of plants. So suspend it from above or put it on a stand, however you want to mount it. They run between the plants. So when you go to harvest, you're just peeling the outer layer of plants off. It's not really interfering with anything that you're trying to do logistically. Because you're not running them like physically through the plant. It's like plant,
it's along
light,
the rows.
plant.
Yeah.
So you just take this out, and you got to cut them out of the trellis anyways.
Right.
Hanging the lights is not cost effective for a commercial grow, because if you hang the lights, you got to run trellis, and all the strings get in the way of that. If you have, let's say, if you have 100 light room, and you have 4-foot benches, you're going to have 2 under-canopy lights, Inner-Canopy lights per overhead. That means there's 200 lights. If you have a 5-foot white bench, you're most likely going to run 3 rows of lights. So if you have 100 overhead lights, you're going to have 300 under-canopy lights. We all used to use stands. We don't use stands anymore in my grow. We got rid of the stands. Stands is a labor-intensive process. Where, you don't remove the top lights. Why do you want to remove the bottom lights? So what we did now is we do horizontal suspension systems that your lights get mounted on, and you don't touch them. You just leave them there. Because once again, labor is the biggest bill that any grow has, especially in California. After that would be electric, and then rent would be the third highest bill. So what we did is, and by the way, our booth is N15606. If anybody wants to go see ThinkGrow LED lights in the way that they're mounted in a professional space. We have levitating bars that go from one suspension to another, but you'll never have to remove the lights. that is a winning because it saves you labor. It also, when you, like I said, there's so many different lights that when you take them off, you have to put them in a cart, and you have to depend on your employees taking care of your lights, not scratching them, not dropping them, and then keeping account of the cords, and then having to go take them out of the room, then cleaning the room, and have to bring them back. We don't do that anymore.
So let's kind of dispel some of the myths. We have a lot of bro science in the industry, and then we have a lot of real science. Is light on the underside of your leaves wasted? I've heard that from OGs all the time when you see all this new tech and new toys come in. Some people like to knock it right off the bat, and some people like to try it first. So how do you dispel those myths or those rumors that this is not actually as effective as what some of the companies claim?
Well, I can touch base on that. Commercial cultivation spaces use Schedule 80 PVC in their grows for one reason: to inhibit light from going into your PVC and grow algae. When you have pretty much the sun inside of a room and you have white PVC Schedule 40, there's light going through your PVC into that, and I'm gonna touch on that. Okay, it's gonna go into the PVC. It's gonna grow algae. The same thing with under-canopy lights. Okay, once again, we're all in biology class, 3rd grade. This is the leaf, top side, bottom side. Top side is the photon receptors, how you process light. The bottom is the stomata, where it breathes CO2 and oxygen and processes it. The light is so strong underneath the canopy that as it's shining up, it does two things. It hits the top of the canopy and it reflects or refracts light. And then it touches the top of the leaf and it processes light. That's an under-canopy light. It also goes through the leaf. That's kind of what I was saying, that light's strong. It goes through things. It goes through PVC even. So it goes through the light and it hits the top receptors of the leaf to process photosynthesis. What we did is the Formula One, the Inner-Canopy light. That's in the canopy, so it shines down onto the top of the leaves on your lower buds. I mean, we have buds growing pretty much out of a Grodan cube at the bottom. Massive buds. We deliver the light more efficiently than an under-canopy light. We have under-canopy lights too, but we believe that the Inner-Canopy light is the Bugatti, is the Formula One of delivering light into the top of the leaves. So it does work, but it's less efficient to do under-canopy than Inner-Canopy.
I actually disagree with that for two reasons. First is that if you think about the plant, right? Okay, so light will pass through an individual leaf, and there's directionality to where chloroplasts are aligned, top versus bottom. So from a single leaf system, that's true, but plants evolved to be non-wasteful, right? Nature never wastes anything, and you're dealing with a three-dimensional distribution of light in a three-dimensional matrix of leaves, right? So when light hits the first row of leaves, certainly it's directional, but the leaf is designed to scatter photons around. The actual idea is that by bouncing a photon around inside of the leaf, it gives it more of an opportunity to slam into a chloroplast or one of its extended pigments, get captured and converted to energy. So by the time a photon has passed through one or two leaves, it's like a Plinko system. It's bouncing around all over the place, and it becomes diffuse. So now you have a large opportunity for it to be captured. So if you're coming down from the bottom and you're pointing straight up, there's so much leaf material in that canopy, including the buds themselves, which are photosynthetically active, that most of that light is going to be captured and turned into useful energy. With respect to the inner canopy versus sub-canopy, interestingly enough, at our research facility, we looked at both of those systems and we isolated effects like temperature in the canopy, photon flux, etc. And our observation actually was that under canopy produces a more efficient utilization of light than an inner canopy system. So it'd be interesting to compare notes on that one, because from my perspective, I would actually recommend an under canopy fixture, not only for its ease of deployment, but also for the fact that its light use efficiency seems to be higher.
Yeah, and with GrowPros, we would use 437 nanometer blue, which is going to be a higher frequency. So it's going to have more energy, right? So you're saying that if we go straight up into it, we're going to maximize the energy captured by the plant using that spectrum, right? And then we also have spectrum control, so with far light, it does help with that penetration all the way through the canopy and through the leaf. And so that makes sense that we're making it really energy efficient from underneath.
Yeah, nature doesn't like to waste energy, for sure. So And that's actually one of the reasons why green light is so interesting, is that with green light, we used to think, oh man, plants don't absorb green light. That's why leaves are green. Why would nature waste energy? Green light passes through the first layer where red and blue is captured, and it scatters around. And by the time it gets to the bottom of the plant, those green photons have been captured as well. And which is the way that we know that photons scatter, right? It's not leaving anything on the table. Nature is very hungry, and when it comes to light, by the time you've gotten through the full profile, you've absorbed most of the useful photons.
And if you think, like, why would we waste energy, right? And if we add the middle light, we're adding heat and wattage. And so now we have to environmentally control that, so we're adding even more. So we could just be effective with coming from the top and the bottom. It's going to be more energy efficient.
So I have dogs in both of these fights because I sell Inner-Canopy lights and I sell Under-Canopy lights, and I sell Under-Canopy lights that are 4-spectrum tunable, and I sell Under-Canopy lights that are 2-spectrum tunable. And if you ask me what light I'm going to pick, if I had one light to pick, I'm going to tell you I'm going to pick Inner-Canopy lights because, once again, it delivers light more efficiently. We can talk that the photons do bounce around and they do. But when you have a light that's in the canopy and is shining light on top of the leaf, it's going straight to the leaf. We don't have to run our Inner-Canopy lights at 100% like most of these guys run their Under-Canopy lights to be able to shine because they're farther away from the light, so they have to shine up to refract down. The Inner-Canopy light is there. We don't run our stuff at 100%. So therefore, it is saving you energy. And when you add 100 light room and then you have 200 Under-Canopy lights at 120 watts, we barely run ours at 100%. So most Under-Canopy lights have to be ran at 100%, so they shine light up, bounce back down on top of the leaf, or goes through the leaf because they're farther away. But like I said, I sell both of them. Ask me what light I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Inner-Canopy light, and I'm going to pick an Inner-Canopy light that has 4-spectrum tunability. Nobody needs deep red at the beginning of your grow because it's not being used. You need whites, you need a little bit of far red and a little bit of deep red, and barely any UV. Later on, and then we match our spectrum tuning according to stacking, irrigation strategies. Stacking, it's a certain spectrum that we use, and then when we go to bulking, we change the spectrum, and then when we go to finishing, we change the spectrum. How do we do this? Because we can spectrum tune our lights. There's light companies that will tell you, I have the best spectrum because whatever. I have a very expensive apparatus that is spectrometer. And we've had every Under-Canopy light in the industry out our grow, when we take a screenshot of the spectrum, and we can match it with the ICL 300 or the ICL 150, and we can match it. So what has the best spectrum? We can copy that, but I can tell you that spectrum tuning is a real thing. We spectrum tune our plants through the stacking stage, through the bulking stage, and then we change it through the finishing stage to get color if that's what you're looking for. California market is probably we're getting about $150, $250 more per pack than most people because our plants are full color from top to bottom due to be able to spectrum tune the bottom canopy through the top canopy, uniformity through the plant. Even greenweed is better when you spectrum tune all 4 channels.
What do you think the underlying mechanisms are that are driving that coloration? I mean, what is it about the tunability that you're targeting that causes that to change?
Well, we all know that California is a candy gas state. If you're not growing candy gas in California, you're just not. It doesn't have any purple color. You're just not going to sell weed. Unfortunately, we don't make the rules. That's just the way that it is. Endo-Canation, I can't even pronounce that word. The purple.
Anthocyanins.
That exactly. That it comes out more when you use the deep red. When you use the deep red on those plants, it brings them more purple. And if you can have uniformity from the top lights, which ThinkGrow LED has 4-channel spectrum tunable lights on top, and the Inner-Canopy lights with ICL 150 or the ICL 300, you have uniformity throughout. Not only that, but you also have the density and the frostiness and the bigger heads from the UV from top to bottom because you're able to tune it.
Okay, so with all this spectrum talk, what's the ideal spectrum for Under-Canopy?
The one that you can tune.
Tunable?
The one that you can tune.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
Hands down.
GrowPros has spectral tuning. And,
Nobody needs deep red at the beginning stages of when your plant's growing. you're going to need your whites. You're going to need your doses of far red, your little doses of deep red, and you barely don't need any UV because there is no trichomes. So, and then you increase your whites. When you're done stacking, and everything happens way faster. Once again, everything happens way faster when you spectrum tune. We're harvesting at day 52 to the point that we only do now one defoliation. We only defoliate roughly around day 26 to 28 because you don't need to defoliate twice. Everything happens faster. You also have Inner-Canopy light down there, and anytime that you touch the plant, you stress it out. So taking one defoliation phase out of that, the plant can actually grow bigger buds. We also stop topping our plants. And this is stuff that I was against but I have a great team and a great director of cultivation. And whenever they do something, they got to show it to me 3 times, and it's got to be consistent in the data.
You did all that really good science on the finding out about the difference between the deep red and the far red, and how it's actually we've been seeing with our 437 nanometer blues put in with an 80% red spectrum. That's where we're seeing the best coloration, which is obviously really important in California, but it's all across the market. So we've been seeing that specific spectrum where traditionally with your white chips, you're just starting at 450 or 460 and just spreading it out. But now we're just starting with a pure blue that's at a lower wavelength or a shorter wavelength.
So I have a different take on driving coloration, which is to say that if we look at how anthocyanin is produced in a plant, the largest driver is temperature differentials between day and night, particularly at the end of the cycle. So your plant is going to produce anthocyanins during the day, and then it destroys them at night. So if you have a higher temperature during the day than you do in the evening, which is what happens in the late fall in nature, you end up producing more than you destroy, and so you accumulate. And growers have been chilling their rooms and driving day-night deltas for years, knowing that promotes color, particularly in those candy gas cultivars. So, my thought process on it is to say that from a lighting perspective, my goal is to create a consistent, simple, reliable solution that has the lowest OPEX so that you have the lowest financial overhead possible in your operation, and then to focus on the large levers instead of a lot of little levers. And that the easiest lever from my perspective to manage is temperature. So, in our experience, we have had situations where we've increased light intensity or driven plants and seen some coloration challenges, but we've always been able to overcome that by using those big steering levers, irrigation, temperature control, temperature deltas, to overcome those deficits and produce product that is very viable in the SoCal market and in other states without having to add the complexity of multi-channel tuning.
I can tell you a couple of things that you don't need, and I was proved wrong with this by my head of cultivation. You don't need low temperatures to change or enhance color. You can also do it through steering, crop steering strategy. And then you can also do it through a crop steering strategy by stressing the plant out a little bit. It'll drive more color. I can tell you that deep red works for a reason, okay? I'm a part owner of ThinkGrow LED, and we have the beta testing facility for ThinkGrow LED in Sacramento, California. Anytime there's a light that's made, they send it to us and we test it. I can tell you that a purple strain, as it's growing, okay, and we had bars that say it had 5 clusters of red, 5 clusters of red. And then they changed as they gave us a new light, and I'm sure it was through cutbacks. The next light only had 4 clusters of red, and there were more in than the one with the 5 clusters. We started seeing that purple strain would get color first in the center, and then the color would start shifting towards the outside. The outside plants, the inside that had the deep red hitting it was purple, the outside was green. If everything was perfect in that harvest, eventually the outside of that bud would eventually turn purple. You wouldn't have what we call a camouflage bud, where it has purple on one side and green on the other. So that's observations that I told, and I make videos and I send them to ThinkGrow LED engineers. Hey, this is what happened. And then what we did is we now make the diodes linear to go along the whole strip of the light, and that's the new generation of lights that's going to come out, where the deep red, the UV, and the far red are throughout the light, so it gets an even shade of spectrum tunability throughout the crop. So I'm been a cultivator for 30 years. I'm a commercial cultivator. We operate an 800 light facility. And I don't think anybody on the planet does as much testing as we do, especially when it comes to lighting. Because everything that, somebody even had HPS spectrums. We tried that. We gave it 3 or 4 tries. It didn't work. We gave that up. But I can tell you that spectrum tunability is going to be the future. Look at me. My name is Alex Villegas. You're going to see that if you're not spectrum tuning in the future, you're not going to sell lights.
All right, guys. So last question really quickly. What's next for Under-Canopy, Inner-Canopy, and lighting in general? We've seen a lot of advancements over the last few years. We've seen all the new trends and fads and new toys to get. What do you think is next, and how do you think that continues to play into the ROI, the first harvest payback, all that stuff that we hear about Under-Canopy?
I'm super excited. You guys should check it out at our booth, right? We're just dropping our airflow Under-Canopy system.
I saw those badass.
Yeah,
So now
it's pretty cool.
We're two birds with one stone. We got the patent, and we're going to, super efficient. We're still going to get I have the 437 in those spectrums as well. And we will have spectrum tuning on it. And then, so we're talking about ROI, so that we're talking about cost, and GrowPros lights are already lower cost than ThinkGrow or Fluence. But we have the same quality, we have the same engineering, we have the same design.
We don't have the same engineers because we have in-house engineers in China, so it can't be the same engineers.
Our engineers came from, just got a couple when Samsung shut down, right? So we brought them over.
Questions or no?
And then
Questions or no?
we're also, all of our owners and partners, we're the ones who engineer and design.
Cool.
I do agree with you that the next thing is Inner-Canopy airflow. Once again, N15606. We also have Inner-Canopy airflow that is very efficient. And check it out. Go check out GrowPros and come check out ours too on the next building.
Fluence?
I think the biggest thing is going to be cost. I think that all growers are looking for solutions that reduce their OPEX and CAPEX, because we're all trying to make more money as things commodify. And we're seeing that growers who aren't able to run efficient, lean businesses aren't growing anymore. There's been a lot of people we all know who aren't in this business anymore and are hobbyists because of it. So I think that all of us as lighting manufacturers are trying to figure out how we continue to provide exceptional quality at more affordable price points. And so I think that a lot of us are going to be driving for engineering that reduces cost. But I also think that for growers that are trying to optimize things, we're looking for integration into smart sensing systems, right? I mean, it's a vantage point for looking at the canopy. And so I think we're actually going to start seeing things tying into machine vision, and other sensing tools that build on that platform so that you're getting more out of one solution instead of having a bunch of ad hoc solutions and 20 logins. So I think that's something that we're going to see.
Right on, guys. Well, thank you guys for talking about Under-Canopy, talking about ROI. If you guys like this, make sure you follow Grow World, connect with Grow World and all of these brands. Go get with the experts and find out all the detailed, nitty-gritty, hard-hitting questions that I didn't answer, or I didn't ask them and they didn't answer here today. So make sure you go check these guys out at their booth and stay here for more amazing panels coming up.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Appreciate it for listening.
Thank you, Grow World.